we're joined by Dave Edwards, retired division head for OSU-OKC's Agriculture Technology Division. And Dave, you've got another project for us. We are going to build some lawn ornaments out of glass balls.
Yes, we're going to cast some concrete globes, and they can be a lot of fun for use out in the garden. They can be used a lot of different ways. We've already prepared one in a sand box. The reason we put it in this sand is to obviously support the globe. When we start filling this with concrete, we don't want it rolling around. But more importantly, the sand is going to support the globe. We're filling this with a wet cement mix, and there's a lot of weight added to that, and especially if we use a lighter weight or a thinner glass globe, it could easily blow that out while we're getting this prepared.
Okay, so after we've got this in the sand, what are we going to do?
Okay.
Do we just put the concrete right in there? Or?
There's one step that we have to do first.
Okay.
And probably have this in the kitchen pantry. The Pam or any of the vegetable oils, we're going to spray a light coat of this inside, and that's going to serve as a bond breaker. Otherwise, that wet cement, when it hardens, it's going to stick to the inside of that glass, and we want it to release and have a nice clean surface on the ball. So I'm just going to give this a light coating.
So this will just help the glass break away from that, correct?
Keep the concrete from sticking to the glass.
Okay, so you just gave it a light spray?
And we're ready to go. And we're going to use a ready mix that, again, can be picked up at any of the home centers. And what we're going to be using is a cement, sand, and gravel mix. All we have to do is add water. The cement the ready mix cement that we're going to use is an 80-pound bag.
So how many balls can you make with 80 pounds?
If we use an 8-inch globe like this, that ought to yield enough material to do 4 globes. Be a little bit left over, but it's way better when you're working with concrete to have a little extra than to come up a little bit short.
Okay, so we don't need a whole sack just for the one we're doing today.
That's right. We already have an open bag that we used for a previous project, so we're going to use some of this same material for this one globe. Now the setting up in the pan, like we've shown here, works for one globe, but if you're going to do a gang molding, take a pan this size or big enough to hold 2, 3, 4, 5, half a dozen, big enough to sand them in. That's what I typically do, is gang cast several balls at a time. But for the homeowner that's just doing this as a little fun project, one at a time is easy to do.
Okay, perfect. So let's mix some Quikrete then.
Okay, this in here. Again, this is an open bag. And we're just going to put enough in here to do this one casting. You don't breathe the dust. How long can you hold your breath?
Still holding.
Okay, that feels like about half of what we had. I'm going to set this aside. And it looks like we had some large pieces, so let's just get those out of there. Okay, now to mix our water, I want to have a little base right there in the center.
So make a little reservoir.
You want to pour or you want me to?
I'll let you do it.
Okay, we're going for a target amount. We don't want too much water.
Okay.
Our paste would be too thin.
So it's kind of like making pie dough, right?
Yep, just the right amount of ingredients. And that gets me started. I'm going to make another little basin. I'm going to pour some more water.
You want to pour a little more?
But I want just enough, just enough, just enough, and then there's a point where that's good right now. And we'll add a little bit more. It's much better to add your water a little bit at a time, because I can always add more. I just can't take it back out. I want to make sure everything's blended very well. Gets a little thick and heavy. Casey, do you have your gloves on?
Got them on.
Okay, we want to be safe, because one of the things about working with cement is a caustic. And if you've ever worked with this,
not a good thing.
And then later in the day, your hands are all dry and cracked, and you feel like you've burned off your fingertips, fingerprints, that can all be avoided with working with gloves. Okay, so what do you think about that?
Looks good. Not good enough to eat like oatmeal, but
I think I'll pass as well. But I think we're about the right consistency. It's good enough for us to get started, so just going to get enough on my trowel to fit in the neck of the globe. And we'll get a few scoops in there. And one thing we want to avoid is those bubbles or voids that would happen on the very outside of the concrete or in the inside face of the globe.
Doesn't look like you can get it with the trowel too well.
No, I'm going to let you use this, I'm going to have you use this little stick. It's going to be the equivalent of a vibrating tool for traditional concrete. And if you'll just move that around to where that stiff mix contacts the inside face of the bowl and gets kind of puddles, gets kind of loose. That's it. And we'll get some solids and probably scrape off. I'm going to overfill and then scrape off some of the wet paste. Okay, I'm going to go back in. So that's nice and wet, nice and loose. I'm going to gradually bring this out because I don't want to leave a void where the stick comes out.
So if I did want a round ball, then I would scrape some of that off.
I'd scrape off some of that free water right now and get down to the thicker mix, and then still have it above the round bottom. And then when we break this out and the cast is finished, when it sets up and we remove the glass, we would grind off or rub off those shoulders, so it would be round on the bottom.
Okay, excellent. So what do we do after this step? We've filled it with concrete, and is it ready tomorrow?
No, this is the waiting part.
Okay.
One of the things about working with concrete, your cement needs a curing period, and the water that we added to this is critical because that starts the chemical process. It's not physical, it doesn't dry out to harden, it actually grows crystals. So that's the hardening of the concrete. And for that to occur properly, we want to allow 5 to 7 days.
Okay.
So we're going to leave everything just like it is. I'm going to do one more thing because if we're going to leave this base, we want to make sure that the base of this is actually level. So here's our last little test. Just eyeball, it looks pretty good. And right there looks good, and right there looks very good. If it was just a little bit out of plumb after this sets up and hardens, and if the neck was a little bit off, then when we break off the globe, the base of it's going to be tilting just a little bit.
Okay.
But we're good. You did very well on setting this up in the sand, so we're good to go.
If it was crooked, we could just slightly rotate it in the sand.
Yes,
mixture.
This is like a ball and socket in the sand, and we could very slightly rotate it to get that rim just to plumb.
Okay, so in the next few days, this water is going to change. Do we need to keep water on it as it's curing?
Yes.
Okay.
What's going to happen now, again, this is going to set or harden over the next 5 to 7 days as it cures. It's going to reach that strength where we can bust off that ball without breaking up or crumbling the concrete. So this time next week, we can break off the glass globe, and still we want to allow another few weeks, 28 days is ideal, to reach the maximum strength, but we'll be about half strength after 5 to 7 days.
Okay, excellent.
Next week, we'll finish off our concrete spheres. But if you really can't wait that long, you can stop by our Facebook page right now to see the final steps of the project. We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.